I'm super keen to announce our next speaker. It's Dr. Jemma King. So Jemma was a speaker at our PwC Signature Experience, which was a week-long trip in the Hunter Valley, and it's for senior consultants and managers. You might have seen it doing the rounds on social media. I know I saw a bunch of LinkedIn posts, but I think we had hashtag corporate Coachella, which is cool, maybe. But yeah, so if you join as a grad in about 2 or so years, you'll get the opportunity to go there. So I'm very, very excited to go there, hopefully next year.
And so I'll introduce a little bit about Jemma, and I'm a bit of a fanboy, so just bear with me. So Jemma has a PhD in Human Behaviour and is a fellow at the UQ School of Psychology. Now, I need to look at this word because I always mispronounce it. Jemma looks at the impact of psychophysiological factors on behaviour and cognitive performance. So that's like, what's the impact of things like EQ, biometric stress and recovery on how we act and how we think. But then also Jemma's worked and consulted with a wide range of really cool organisations. So the Australian Defence Force and Centre for Army Leadership, the Australian Institute of Sport and the Australian Olympic Swim Team. But I do like to find out things off the beaten track about speakers. So my favourite things about Jemma is that she's been a stunt double in a movie. She managed a nightclub in Moscow during the fall of the communist regime.
It's telling how old I am.
And has lived in Korea, Europe and Canada. So a massive round of applause for Dr. Jemma King.
Thank you. I'm blushing. Hi, everybody. It's so exciting to be here. And this is like a really monumental time in your life. You're kind of deciding the trajectory of your life. And for someone who has been at uni for a very, very long time, I've studied for ages and I've been lecturing, I might have a bit of an inkling about how you're feeling. And I imagine that a few of you think, maybe I could have done a bit better, had a bit more mental clarity, maybe slept a bit more, looked after myself a bit more, gone to bed, didn't go out as much. Hands up if that was you. Those you should all be hired. But anyway, so the team at PwC, they've often felt like this themselves. And so they went and did something about it. And so they really want to ensure that their employees can get the best out of themselves, not only at work, but also, like at home and with your relationships. And so how do they do this? Well, they got the best experts, and scientists who know all about, psychophysiology. I think it's a bit loud. And have got the latest science-backed, peer-reviewed, protocols on how to eat better, sleep better, so you guys can be better cognitive performers. And so this is where I come in. And so I am a doctor of human behaviour, and so I work a lot with psychophysiology. So learning about how you can biohack your sleep, your food, your bodies, so you can perform better. And so I've worked with a range of different populations from, I did my PhD at the Australian Special Forces, Olympic Swim Team, but I also now work with a range of really high stress individuals like lawyers and people from Minters. I am an advisor to McKinsey, and I've worked for quite a while now with PwC and at the outside. So what I'm going to do today is give you some of the stuff that I teach on these sessions. It's going to be like drinking from a fire hose, but I know you guys are smart, so you can cope with a mental beating. So what I want to talk about is psychophysiology. And so why should you care about it? Well, what I know from all my years of consulting and from research is that you're at uni, you'll probably learn about higher order concepts around how to, engage in organisational behaviour, how to learn strategy, those 5-point strategic plans. You'll probably learn about team dynamics, how to engage with clients. You'll probably learn how to take or give, things like feedback, performance reviews. But what we know is if you don't get your physiology under control first, all of those higher order concepts just go out the window. And when the stress hits hard, you actually can't remember that, awesome 5-point plan. And so what we teach is, in order for you to be like a really effective team member, an employee, or even a leader, you first have to manage yourself, managing this. So what does that mean? It means managing your allostatic load. So knowing about all those little things that sort of build up and build, accumulate and put pressure in the system. So when the big things come along, you've actually got the bandwidth to do that. So what are those things? Well, they're things like, what do you let run around in your head? Do you ruminate at night? How do you feel? What kind of emotions are you showing up with? How do you interact with your friends, family, and yourself and people at work? But also, and what we're going to talk about today, is how do you sleep? How do you move? And how do you eat? Okay, so these are things we're going to focus on, and you're going to get a couple of hacks to take away. So what I like to teach is what happens under the bonnet when you get into that stress situation. So we've got a fairly complex world. It's increasingly sophisticated technology we have to learn all the time. You'll have a really massive learning curve if you come here. We've got lots going on in our world, social media, all these things that kick off our stress response system. But they're not really designed to do that. Our stress response system was designed to be adaptive for these guys back on the savannas 250,000 years ago, where you'd see this stress, like a saber-toothed tiger, then you'd get this squirt of cortisol and adrenaline would give you the resources to fight or flee, and then either you'd kill that saber-toothed tiger, you'd be eating it, steak that night, or that thing would kill you. And either way, your stress would go up and then it would come down. But now we're on and we're always on. And this brain and this system's really not designed for it. And so what happens is we're constrained by this fairly primitive hardware, and in those critical moments, like before the interview that you're going to do, this brain can fail you. The reason being, this brain is a very metabolically expensive piece of machinery. It's only 2 to 3% of your body weight, but it takes up 20 or 30% of your resources. So for hunter-gatherers, that's a lot. They didn't know when they were going to get their next feed. So what we do, we're metabolic misers. Under stress, we think, I'm going to put all of my resources into fighting or fleeing, to the big muscle groups, to your heart and lungs. And then we get what we call mental blanking. So these are good things if you're in a survival situation, maybe not so good when you're about to tell, a partner about yourself. Hands up here if you've ever had mental blanking. Yeah, I still do it. I know what's going on. So it's actually a good thing, but not so good in certain situations. So you've got to learn how to use this stress energy. Has anyone had their short-term memory just go? I missed my bus for a statistics exam once. I was so stressed out. Not only did I forget how to write my student number, I actually forgot my name. That's how stressed I was. That's, ridiculous. Another thing, has anyone had a dry mouth? They're about to public speak or they're about to speak in a meeting and they can't talk. Well, this is actually your digestive system diverting all the resources away from your stomach and telling your mouth, okay, don't put any food down here, we might have to run. So it's a good thing, but not a good thing if you're needing to speak. Has anyone had this phenomenon where they're yawning? Just at that critical moment? We had an Olympic swimmer that started yawning on the blocks at the Olympics and the media went crazy. She was like, what happened? I said, don't worry, it's just your stress response system getting extra energy into your body and to oxygenate your brain. So it's not such a bad thing. Has anyone got the shakes, got a bit jittery, jaw going, knees going? I remember seeing some Olympians on the blocks with their knees and I said, don't worry, it's a good thing. Does anyone know what makes you shake? What's the thing surging through your veins that makes you shake when you're nervous? Huh?
Adrenaline.
Yes. And why is adrenaline a good thing?
It gives you the energy to
React. Yes. It increases your speed of processing, increases your reaction time. So it's not such a bad thing after all. Does anyone get the cravings for sugary, salty, sweet food when they're stressed? Again, it's your primitive brain thinking, I'm about to have to do something. It's activating. It's getting the system ready. So these things are not such bad things when you realise where they come from. They've actually designed to keep our ancestors and you alive. We also talk about how sleep gets disrupted. So I'm going to be talking about sleep in my next session. It's a big issue. And then we're going to talk about gut dysbiosis, how stress just ruins the bugs in your stomach. And these bugs are very important for cognitive processing. So this is my 3-point plan. I teach it to special forces soldiers, Olympic athletes, racing car drivers, lawyers, doctors, anyone who's in a high stress situation. This is the best way to get out of a mental blanking situation, or you feel like you're about to panic, or you're about to go into that interview and you feel really nervous. You start with the vagus nerve reset, okay? So I want everyone to do that. There's this big nerve that goes down the body. This is where your fight or flight system's starting to get frenetic messaging that's sending you up to a message to your brain saying, okay, shut down, you're going to have to run. If you just do this, it resets. Okay, so then this is Shayna Jack. She's one of the Olympic swimmers who, if you see them at the Olympics, they do it to calm themselves down. Then reframe. Okay, I am feeling nervous, but it's actually getting my body activated, ready to do the important things I want to do. And then the third thing is resonant breathing. Okay, so I want everyone to just practice this now. It's breathing in and out through your nose. 5 breaths in, 5 breaths out. So we know that there are enzymes in your paranasal sinuses which produce something called nitric oxide. Now, nitric oxide is a vasodilator and it drops your blood pressure and it has this extra calmative effect. So remember this 3-point plan before you go into a stressful situation. Vagus nerve reset, reframe, and breathe. And that way that your brain will be online and in the best possible form to show up in the way you want to for your interview. Okay, so managing life stress more generally, we talk about these factors. Make sure that you eat well, make sure that you move, make sure you sleep well, and make sure that you manage your energy. So I'm going to give you a whole lot of hacks on these things. Okay, so 3 major categories. First, I want to talk about your gut biome. Who's heard about gut biome? Yeah, okay. So we've got about 2.5 kilograms of bugs living in our stomach. So I asked the question, are we human or are we microbial? So the answer is we've got about 3 trillion human cells. We've got about 39 trillion bugs cells just in our stomach alone. So if you look at the ratio, we're about 1 human to 10 bug cells by numbers, okay? So these things are incredibly important for a whole range of things. We actually call it the second brain. And it is the center point of your immune system. So 70% of your immune cells exist in your stomach and in your digestive tract. So if you guys are finding you're getting sick all the time, maybe it's time to look at what are you putting in here. We also know that if you're putting the wrong stuff in there, it creates inflammation. And that translates to brain inflammation. And so when you have to do something really important and you've got gut dysbiosis, you might have poorer memory, slower reaction times, and difficulty concentrating. So I'm going to give you some hacks on how to fix this later. We also know that inside your stomach, these bugs produce neurotransmitters. Okay, so has anyone heard of serotonin? Can tell me what that is? What does serotonin do? Someone yell out? What? Makes you happy. It does heaps and heaps of stuff. So being happy is kind of important, right? So 85% of your serotonin is made in your stomach. Okay, so it's very important for mood. And if you're feeling irritable for no good reason, it could be gut dysbiosis. We also know that this gut biome produces bioidentical hormones that look like dopamine and in fact produce dopamine as well. And what do you guys need to get up, to get going and learn and to get, ahead? You really need dopamine. Dopamine is the hormone that you produce in anticipation of a reward. So there are some things that, your gut biome does. Does anyone here wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning, just like for no good reason? There's lots of theories. We're not 100% sure why, but there is some new research saying that your sleep and your gut biome is very highly correlated. So we know that these bugs, they have their own little life cycles and they like to wake up at 3 in the morning, particularly if you've gone to eaten lots of sugary food before bed. They proliferate, they get hungry, and they'll send hormones. They send hunger hormones to your brain, so you wake up. And then I don't know if you've ever woken up in the morning with like this screaming hunger. Don't always trust it. It could be gut dysbiosis. We also know that people who had a lower gut diversity have poorer sleep. And we also know that these bugs, they fight your body for something called tryptophan. Does anyone know what tryptophan is? Okay, so tryptophan is the precursor to melatonin. Melatonin is the hormone that makes you sleep. Okay, so if you've got bugs in your stomach, like gobbling up the tryptophan, your body doesn't have enough tryptophan to make you sleepy, and then you get sleep dysregulation. We also know that 3 a.m. waking could be because you've been stressed all day and you fall asleep exhausted, but then because you've got so many stress hormones in your system, it wakes you up. So you need to punctuate your day with little micro breaks to down-regulate that cortisol. Okay, so here are my 3 hacks. Eat in order to increase your gut biodiversity, which is really important for all those reasons that I've just said. Try to eat 40 different plant-based foods a week. People are going, what, 40? Are you serious? All you have to do is eat a curry or eat a Vietnamese salad. Okay, so that includes ginger and turmeric and garlic. They count. And so the more diverse the food, the happier you'll be, the better cognitive performance you have, and you'll sleep better. Try to eat fermented low-sugar foods, kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir. There's a recent paper that came out. The more people eat of those fermented foods, the more stable their mood was. So this is really hard, empirically validated science. Reduce your sugar. We know that sugar actually shrinks your brain through hyperosmolarity. Okay, so who's a bit of a sugar monster here? Yeah, it hits your dopamine pathway and it feeds the wrong bugs. Try not to have preservatives and fake food, because this just creates inflammation. So the day before your interview, make sure that you do these things. Okay, move. Movement is incredibly important. There's this sedentary depression hypothesis. Humans were never ever sedentary back in our hunter-gatherer days. If we were still, it probably meant that we were sick, and our primitive brains will make us pull away from the clan so we don't infect the clan, and will make us tired. Those 2 things, withdrawal and sleepiness, mimic depression. So try to be active. We know that if you sit for 5 hours, it will totally wipe away your 1 hour workout. So if you go to the gym in the morning and then sit on a desk for 5 hours, kind of wipes away the benefits of it. Get a standing desk or try and stand up if you can. It's really good because we've just found that there is a special hormone in your long bones that when you put pressure on your long bones, it produces osteocalcin. Osteocalcin is something that improves memory. Who here needs a good memory? Okay, so remember, put pressure on your long bones. If it's not running, at least moving around. And we've just also found out that when you contract your muscles, your body produces proteins that have an antidepressant effect. So you've got like this pharmacology just living inside your body that you can use. Last thing, energy management. Beware of mental rumination. It's very, very metabolically expensive. Every time you think about negative thoughts, it produces stress hormones, which are very expensive to make and to get rid of. Create a worry hour. Okay, so between 10 and 11, I'm going to worry about stuff and name to tame, write it down. And then for the rest of the day, try not to ruminate on negative things. It's expensive. If you can, throughout your day, look at greenery. We know that looking at green things actually drops your cortisol. It's a cortisol antidote. And try and look at horizons. It really relaxes those. You've got these very high burn cells in your brain if you're looking at a screen. And if you look up to the horizon, it engages a slower burn type of brain cell. Get rid of your phone if you need to be effective. Research found that those people who did work with their phone on their desk, it took them 40% longer to do that thing than people who didn't have their phone. Even if they didn't look at it, it still does have a switching cost, which is very metabolically expensive. Okay, sleep. Sleep is incredibly important. If you do anything, look at your sleep. And if you want to learn about sleep, stay in here, and I'm going to have another session on all the things you can do to help your sleep. So yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening, guys. And good luck.
I hope that you found that exceptionally interesting. I know I've seen Jemma talk before, and every time I pick up something new from what she says, which is awesome. I am definitely one of those people who suffers from mental blanking, something that I definitely work on and take a minute before I probably start to speak and remember what I'm trying to say. And definitely for me, that like 40 plant foods, much easier than it sounds. You just have a big salad or something and add some chia seeds along the way, which is good for your gut as well. And just the importance of sleep. And for, cognitive athletes such as yourselves and ourselves, sleep is so important. So if we can stress one thing, that's definitely something. And as Jemma said, she's going to talk about that a little bit more in her session as well. But hopefully some takeaways for you there that you can think about how you can integrate those into your lives over the next couple of months and as you transition as well into maybe full-time work or out of uni, etc. So thank you again, Jemma, for that. And also, can we thank Jasper, who, I don't know if you could see it, but Jasper was the one that was doing the digital scribing as Jemma spoke up here. So Jasper's in the background over there, just, getting some of those key points out, and we will give you that digital scribe when you take away, just so that you can have that as well. So thank you to Jasper. That's awesome, but great session.
Sort of reiterating, thank you. That was genuinely super interesting. But now all of you get the choice to decide what you want to hear about. So we've got 5 sessions coming up, but remember you can only pick one. So choose wisely. Don't stress if you don't make it into your first choice. Again, we're filming everything, so you will be able to go home and watch that content in your own time.
And I've said I'm a fanboy of Jemma, but I swear every time that I see Jemma or someone like Jemma talk, I just feel this massive shame because I have such sugar cravings. I'm obsessed with chocolate. Like, as in, I live 5 meters from a service station, and every night I'm like, just a little bit of caramel, and I just kind of walk down. So look, I will get on top of it. As we said, we have 5 sessions that you can go to. Again, 20 minutes, pick one. So you'll stay here if you want to hear more from Jemma about sleep and hacking sleep. And there's a bit of a game that you'll play with Jemma as well. But as we do have capacity restraints, we'll only have about the first 2 to 3 rows available for Jemma's session here. Otherwise, you've got cybersecurity, which is just at that back area over there. So you'll learn about current trends in cyber threats, as well as 3 really practical takeaways for what you can do to protect yourself. The first one down here will have the art of storytelling. So that's just on the other side of the wall. This is how you can go about telling some really impactful stories and how you can go about influencing. And again, another exciting activity that you'll play with Kenneth over there. Further along again, the voice referendum need to knows. So at PwC, we have PwC Indigenous Consulting, a really important part of who we are. And this year, you're going to have to vote on the Voice to Parliament referendum. So that's where you can learn a little bit more around what that actually means in practice from the team. And then down at the very end, near where the stairs are, if you know where the office tour was, there's a setup over there. We'll have our energy transition team talking about Australia's energy transition opportunity and the pathway to decarbonisation. So hopefully you got all of that. You got 5 to pick from. You pick one. This is where they are. You have 20 minutes, and then you come back to finish off the morning. So off you go.